The worst part of my job is when I talk with someone and they just sold the property or sold the business and now they want to be charitable. That's when it's really tough because that's where I know there were probably millions that did not get into the donor advised fund that could have and really would have helped their own family legacy and the impact they were making.
Welcome back to Graceful Investor. This is Tasia, and today I am joined by my friend Kim, and I am so excited for everything that she's about to educate us on. Kim, I would love it if you wanted to introduce yourself and tell the women a little bit about your profession and something personal about yourself.
Sure. Thanks so much, Tasia, for having me on the show. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Kim Moeller, and I live in San Diego, and I work in the charitable giving space. So I do wear several different hats and represent several different companies. All of those companies fall under the umbrella of the generosity ecosystem. So one is the National Christian Foundation. I'm the area director for San Diego. We help people with setting up a giving fund and granting those funds out. That's like a charitable checking account. And then I work with Impact Foundation. You can use those same funds, and instead of granting them and giving them away, you can invest them in for-profit companies that have triple bottom line type of impacts, spiritual, social, and economic. And then I also work for Women Doing Well, which helps a woman figure out her 2-word purpose statement and then her passions and her plan for generosity. And I've been married 38 years to my husband, Carl. We have 4 grown kids and just had our first grandbaby, and the next one's coming in May, and the last one's coming later this year. So 3 in this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And you also have Generous Girl, if you want to
The
tell us a little
podcast,
bit about
yes. So I started a podcast, as we just mentioned, the Generous Girl, and this is our 4th year, and it comes out every 2 weeks. And what we do is we share how generosity is interwoven in 5 areas: faith, family, fitness, finance, and friendship. So it's really a very inspirational show, but then we also include educational tips, and we want to also empower and equip women because, as you know, right now we're within the beginnings of this great wealth transfer where
Yes.
trillions of dollars are going to women, more than ever in the history before. I always want to tell women that don't be intimidated by the financial language. It's just another language to learn. And, you can learn at the basic level, like when you're learning Spanish, and then you can get more advanced and more advanced. And the same is true with investing and impact investing and just the financial.
Thank you for going through all those things that you like to cover because we are very similarly aligned. And I also believe that a woman won't feel confident unless we learn the language around investing. Okay, so I wanted to kind of get a little bit more information about your own personal comfort zone around private investing. Have you ever made a private investment before, and how did it go? How old were you?
Yeah, have made, say stock purchases, and I have some that have done really well, some that haven't. My part of my story is I was on a game show when I was in college. You probably don't know that. And
No,
I did
I did
receive
not
a
know
lot of
that.
earnings and needed to decide where to invest those. So I kind of learned at a young age. One investment went amazingly well and still does well today. And another one, I never saw those dollars again. So
Okay, so I hear you say that you had a cash windfall in your late teens, early 20s. That was when you made your first private investment and still is not around today, unfortunately.
yeah.
One of the things that you and I have spoken about is private investing and also donor advised funds. Can you tell our women what a donor advised fund is
Yes.
and everything around impact investing?
Think of a donor advised fund as a charitable checking account. So let's just make it easy and say in 2026 you want to give away $10,000. So if you don't have a donor advised fund, then you're having to make sure that by the end of this year of 2026, December 31st, that you have actually given out that money to the various groups that you planned on. And so a nonprofit being defined as a 501c3. So then if you have a donor advised fund, what is really nice is you're getting a deduction up to 60% of your AGI, your adjusted gross income. But the pressure of giving that money in 2026 changes because once you put your dollars into the donor advised fund, it's no longer your money. I always say, like, if your house burned down, you would not be able to touch that money. Yeah. You are the donor, and you now advise where it goes and how it's deployed.
Okay, so we have a woman who wants to give to different nonprofits. Mm-hmm. She decides to open up a donor advised fund. She puts her own cash in it, mm-hmm. and when she does, that's when your charitable deduction counts.
That's right.
At the time of entry into mm-hmm. the DAF.
That's right.
DAF.
DAF or DAF.
And then I hear you say that it can sit there for a while. It doesn't have to leave the fund right away and be granted out in that same year that you put it into the DAF. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so maybe you want to, maybe you're single, maybe you're married, and you want to have more money to give. So maybe you want to have $20,000 that you want to grant out. So it's going to take you part of 2027 to accumulate the additional $10,000. Okay. And you can do that. And you can decide, at the end of August of 2027, we're going to deploy $20,000 to Samaritan's Purse or some 501c3 or your church. And that's very different than the charitable deduction needing to make sure that it actually would go to the Samaritan's Purse
Correct.
Example. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Okay, so that is a donor advised fund, and we can open that up through a variety of different financial institutions like Charles Schwab, mm-hmm. but you can also go with kind of standalone groups that manage and hold on to a lot of different people's donor advised funds. Can you talk a little bit about Impact Foundation with us?
Yes. That would be more of the National Christian Foundation side, where if somebody wants to have a charitable checking account, then you could go with the National Christian Foundation, open the giving fund, or giving fund is what we call it. And that's, even though we really want to have that money deployed. I mean, I'm telling you how a donor advised fund, doesn't force you to deploy it. It wants you to, and we get the generous deduction. So it's not designed to just sit there and hoard the funds. Like, it's Correct. Designed to, you're being charitable, so we're going to encourage you to be that. And, another advantage of it is you can be at a banquet and you can be anonymous and you can say you're going to receive mm-hmm. a fun gift from my donor advised fund, and you can not even say your name. So there are a lot of different reasons why somebody would like to do a donor advised fund. But if then they don't want to grant it out, but they would rather invest those funds, then that's when we get Impact Foundation involved. And so Impact Foundation started and originated out of the National Christian Foundation 11 years ago, where what we decided we're going to stay in the lane of granting at the National Christian Foundation. Over 90,000 organizations. We just crossed over $22 billion has been granted out, and
of dollars making its way to the different charities.
That's right.
Through National Christian Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're just like the conduit that gets the money to these nonprofits. And then Impact Foundation is the side of those same dollars, but not granting it out. Instead, it's impact investing. So meaning for a minimum of $25,000, you can choose a portfolio company on our platform, impactfoundation.org, and depending on what you're passionate about, maybe it is poverty alleviation, maybe it's scripture engagement, maybe it's redemptive real estate, maybe it's media and entertainment that's faith forward. Lots of choices, and you then can invest a minimum of $25,000. And what that buys you is you're able to do investments in private companies that you might not all, like you wouldn't normally qualify for, because maybe the minimum investment is $250,000. But through Impact Foundation, you could come in as low as $25,000, and on the cap table, the company, you would just see Impact Foundation as one line, and your 25 would be combined with a number of people's investments, and that's why you're able to come at that lower amount.
Okay. Could we clarify what is a cap table? What does that word mean?
Yeah, that just is going to show the various people who are owners within the company and how that is divided up.
So all of the investors that are coming alongside that company are listed out in the cap table, is what I hear you saying.
Well, the cap,
And your name won't personally appear. It
Right.
would go under, if you do part of a group gift where different people are pooling together to
Right.
meet that minimum threshold of an investment. What are some of the investment minimum thresholds that you're seeing? You mentioned 250,000. Are you seeing anything lower than that?
with the private side of things,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm usually seeing it around the 250. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is charitably inclined, but they want to put their dollars to work and grow them before giving them away,
Mm-hmm.
a donor advised fund with Impact Foundation seems like a new novel way to do that, to have a higher return from a private deal that goes great, that makes an impact in some way. And then at the end of the day, the return, do you pay taxes on the return that you make
You
on the
don't.
profits?
And so that's
Okay.
really the big difference, though, in terms of when you grant out your funds. Let's just say you have 100,000 sitting in your donor
Yes,
advised
that's
fund.
that's a very great starting point. So
Okay.
$100,000, you open up
100,000.
You open up a donor advised fund with Impact Foundation, and you say, I have a private company that I would like to invest in, and they're making an impact in some way with, what are the different areas? Environmental?
Yeah. So, okay. So if someone wants to do it that in that order, then how we do this is we call those companies the portfolio companies. So we would be happy to vet that company for the person who wants to make the investment and for that portfolio company to get them on our platform. But we're looking for three things. Does it have spiritual impact? Does it have social impact? And does it have economic impact? And that usually takes 7 to 10 days to vet that company. So we only want to do that for a company if we have the investor. So let's say we have Ashley who has the 100,000, and Ashley just loves XYZ company and she wants to invest her full amount into this company. Great. So we vet the company, and then what we do, we have a 3% origination fee. So actually in that example, she would want to transfer over from, let's go back to the NCF Giving Fund. If money is going to sit in the Giving Fund, we don't want it happening at Impact Foundation, because we're kind of a pass-through. Like, it comes in and it goes out into these investments. So if Ashley was trying to figure out what do I want to do I want to grant, do I want to do impact investing, we would say keep those funds at Schwab, Fidelity, at NCF, wherever your donor advised fund is. When you're ready to make the donor advised fund, to create the impact account at Impact Foundation and to actually do the impact investment, that's when we have them transfer over those funds.
Okay. So I'm going to try and recap this.
Okay?
Could you tell me the three things again? Economic, spiritual,
And social.
and social.
Mhm.
I just kind of want to make it super simple.
Absolutely. So if and when the investment performs well and those returns are actualized, then they actually come into, like in Ashley's example, Ashley's impact account. So Ashley then could do another impact investment.
Okay, so let's say that she made a $50,000 gain because the company that she invested in returned her original money plus 50,000. She does not pay taxes on the $50,000 gain. It stays within the donor advised fund. And then she could make a charitable gift out of that.
That's right.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we have a couple choices. We can leave it in a regular donor advised fund, do our charitable giving out of it. It doesn't all have to be spent within the year that you put it into the donor advised fund. Or if you want to invest in a company that is making an impact, either economic, spiritual, or social impact, you can move funds into the Impact Foundation, and then you all will be managing that investment until it's completed.
That's right.
How long have you seen private investments within a donor advised fund typically take? Is
I
it
think it's
1
anywhere
year?
no, it's more like 5 to 7 years.
Okay. So when you're doing that type of private investing within your donor advised fund, if you're going to be making a charitable gift within the next 2 or 3 years, that's probably not something that you want to be doing.
Right.
Right? Because there's a lockup period.
That's right.
Okay.
And the exciting part is you're really helping people with these funds that might not have had a chance. So impact investing involves risk, but when you look at it like from the donor advised fund side that you've already given the funds, let's just say you don't get any money back, but you really believed in the idea of this company and the founder and what they were working on and how they were really trying to fight some social ill or make a big spiritual impact. If I'm in those shoes, I still feel glad that I gave that founder an opportunity and a chance with my charitable capital.
I see. And you still got a tax write-off for making that investment. And in private investing, you don't get a write-off. So
Right.
to me, I've enjoyed learning about it because it feels like this beautiful blend of charitable giving and private investing.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that is amazing to me.
It is. It's really exciting because when we think about the funds that are sitting in donor advised funds, or any of the money that's been, given from the private foundations, the 5% that's available and sitting, people haven't chosen how to use it yet. That's a lot of money. It's over $1 trillion.
I do have a question for you. Is the Impact Foundation, if you want to get involved and you are not a Christian, is that permitted?
Sure. I mean, you're welcome to open an impact account. And just keep in mind that those types of impact are what we're looking for when we're vetting the companies.
Yes, yes. And economic and social impact, it's okay if it doesn't align necessarily with a Christian faith. I just want to make sure that we're making it clear that no one's excluded
Right,
to
right.
participate in this.
Right. No, not at all. It's just more of like, are these companies that you want to invest your dollars in? And those you can see, on the website, impactfoundation.org, lots of choices.
Yes, and I have a lot of respect for, there's investment groups where opportunities are posted and you can take your pick, but you never quite know, well, how did they get to become a recommended company to invest in? Are they giving money to the person recommending them? What Impact Foundation is doing is there are no commissions, there's no sponsorships that you've received for promoting an opportunity. These are just things that your company has vetted.
That's right.
And really researched. They feel it is verifiable with the IRS that yes, this counts as an impact investment. You can participate if you'd like.
Yeah, we have a wide variety of companies that are on our platform, and we're constantly getting new companies that want to be verified.
I'm sure. And I also really like the concept of you can pool smaller dollar amounts
Right.
to meet the minimum thresholds. That is something that happens in investing circles as
Yeah.
well.
Right.
Um, so I like that you all are doing that as well.
I just like to tell women, especially, sometimes people think you have to have a really high amount to even have a financial advisor. That is not true. And I like to tell people to get started young with a financial advisor.
Kim, so when you first sit down and meet with a woman, what is the typical knowledge level that she has about her wealth and also her giving capacity?
That really varies. I meet with so many different people every day, and I might be meeting with a woman who runs a company and she's scaled 6 companies. I might be meeting with a widow who her husband just had a heart attack and she's left with a lot of resources. She wasn't planning on that at this stage, at her age. I meet with people who run nonprofits who don't have as many resources to invest, so they have more of the time and the talents that they're using from a generosity capacity. So that is so hard to say.
So you definitely are meeting with a wide range of women and their wealth levels.
Well, one of the spaces that the National Christian Foundation plays such a great part, a vital part in that area, is when people will be selling properties or they'll be selling businesses. They work with us because we can help structure the percentage that they gift to the National Christian Foundation ahead of the sale. It's never after the contract's been signed. We never want to have a prearranged sale and then they work with us.
Right.
That's just not possible or legal. So we're making sure that down the road they want to sell the company, and so at this time now, if they gifted, let's say 30% or 20% or 40% of the company, the National Christian Foundation would own that part of the company, and then when the sale happens down the road, the company's valued, the property's valued, with a professional appraiser, then those funds are available for granting out, as we talked about, or you could move it over and do the Impact Foundation side of things.
And by placing shares of the property or the company in advance, how does that help them on the taxes side at the point of sale?
Because the IRS, we have a very generous tax code in this country for charitable giving. So the IRS says if you're going to be charitable, we're going to allow you to minimize those long-term capital gains because that money is going to charity. So sometimes people are able to almost do a one-for-one swap. They owe this much in taxes, but by gifting it to the National Christian Foundation, they're able to really lower, if not almost entirely eliminate that tax bill. So the worst part of my job is when I talk with someone and they have already just sold the property or sold the business and now they want to be charitable. That's when it's really tough, because that's where I know there were probably millions that did not get into the donor advised fund that could have and really would have helped their own family legacy and the impact they were making.
That is a very beautiful piece of advice that I have not considered personally. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
And is there anything else that you want to say about that topic and gifting in advance?
At NCF, because we are a nonprofit, there's no charge. So we do this all the time. We scenario plan, we do charitable gift annuities, and we work with another group that does the charitable remainder trusts, and we'll scenario plan on, okay, if you gifted this piece of your business or property, where would you end up? What would that leave for taxes? What would that leave for your family, and then for the various nonprofits you want to grant toward, or the impact investing side?
Right now, one person is permitted to pass down $15 million to their heirs, with everything above that being taxed estate taxes if they are a solo person. If they're married, the husband and the wife each get 15 million. So if you are a solo person, business owner getting ready to sell, and you know that that $15 million limit exists, have you had people give anything above that threshold and put it all into the donor advised fund? Or what do people typically like to do if they're above that threshold?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not a tax advisor, so I always want to make that caveat. There's a couple that you might have heard of before, Alan and Catherine Barnhart. And if you go on YouTube, you can Google them, and it's like a 17-minute video that tells their story of how they gifted almost their entire company to the National Christian Foundation. And they basically capped their salaries and said, okay, anything above this amount, when it comes into, it's like a crane company with large machinery in Memphis. So anything that comes in, we're going to put half of it back into the operating expenses, and the other half will go to missions. And it really wasn't that long after till more than $1 million was coming in each month to go to missions. So that's a great story that I love to have people watch when you look at the power of generosity.
And so they made the gift of the shares of the company prior to the success really happening, and they're continuing to operate.
Exactly.
And having cash flowing annually.
It was successful. It was successful when they gifted it. It was, but it's just continued to become
To grow.
To
Yes.
grow.
Okay, so one of the things that I know that you are highly involved in is a program called The Table.
Yes.
And if you could speak to what you're teaching women in that
Sure.
group.
Yes, so The Table is connected with Impact Foundation, and we just finished a cohort started in January. We actually finished 3 cohorts. Co-ed cohort, all women's, and then one that's with a unique organization. So I helped to co-facilitate The Table, and the neat part about The Table is if you're hearing this podcast and you're sounding interested and intrigued with impact investing, it's a way to get your feet wet and do this with other women. Women often like to do things in community. And so we created The Table. It's a 7-week cohort, and you put in $10,000 of charitable capital. So that means that money has already been put into your donor advised fund, and we're then putting it in the impact account at Impact Foundation. And if it hasn't already been in, then you're just sending in your check for your $10,000 to participate. And then let's just take the total of 15 women, $10,000 each. So we have $150,000 of charitable capital. Any returns come back to Impact Foundation as a whole, and they're kind of spread out amongst various companies. But why are we doing The Table? We're doing The Table so that we can teach women and men, but in the women's group, about impact investing. They can dip their toe in the water with the $10,000. And the first week, we set the stage by saying, no question's a dumb question. This is, as we said earlier, a new language, but you can learn it. Mm-hmm. And then we'll have 5 different pitches over the next 5 weeks. Some will be from companies and some will be funds. But you'll hear from the founder, and they'll tell you, I am building this web-based platform, and I need to have capital to get the next level with my software developers and really make the UI UX as it needs to be. Or I have a factory overseas, and we need $70,000 to get new equipment. So there's all kinds of companies and passions that people are, motivated by with these companies. And then we listen to the pitches, and then we decide at the end how we're going to allocate that capital.
You decide, so all the women kind of get to participate, hear the pitches all along the way, and then they get to vote at the end of the process. Is that how it works?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And out of the $150,000, does all the money go to just one investment, or is it split among?
It's split. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Usually around maybe 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what is the main advice that you give women around things to ask during a pitch?
So much. I mean, we have many different things. We want them to understand the history of the company and why are they doing what they're doing, their mission statement, where are they located. One company was in India, very close to the border of Pakistan, so there was risk involved with that. We want to know what's their trajectory, what about leadership, just all the things that you're going to look at as you're going to determine, is this an investment I want to make with my charitable capital.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we talk about is you're not investing in the company, you're really investing in the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And will that leader stick around?
Yeah.
Especially in another country where there might be very risky geopolitical concerns going on. Will they stay through this company's project's completion and be the strong leader that's needed? So I love that you all say that you should ask that kind of question too.
Totally.
What about on the financial side? What are some of the questions that you would like women to ask the pitching company?
They want to know what have been the returns in the past, any prior impact investments, how has the company grown, and just looking at their budget each year, what has changed with what they're investing in. I mean, men too, but there I thought in our group some really insightful questions trying to understand the company. And of course, you can get pulled by your heartstrings, but we want to make sure that it is a sound financial investment.
Yes. How long is the investment typically locked up in an American company versus something overseas, or are they all the same kind of time frame?
I mean, I'm speaking really from the Impact Foundation side of things, and that I would say about an average of 5 years for either.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Could you clarify, are your investors making loans sometimes and also kind of private equity investments?
Mm-hmm. Equity, or when we do loans, we're setting up, here's the loan that I'm loaning you this money for X amount of years at this interest rate. Maybe it's a balloon payment at the end because they don't have any capital at the beginning, and that can vary. And then the equity is we're giving you ownership in the company, and that might take also a while before you see anything, or they sell the company, all the different things that go in. So yes, it could be.
There are flexible options to getting financing to these companies.
That's right.
What you're saying.
And you're playing a part in helping to build that company with your charitable capital.
Okay. This is money that I want it to do some good in the world, and I have donated it to the Donor Advised Fund. So let's do something a little bit more of a question mark in terms of investing in a company. And if there's a huge return, fantastic. I can help a lot more people with that return. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay too, because my heart was in the right place.
Right.
And I felt good about trying to lift someone up along the way.
Right.
So that, I like how you phrase that, because I think when women are thinking about private investing, it is riskier. Is it possible for a donor advised fund to be handed down to your children?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
when we open donor advised funds or giving funds at the National Christian Foundation, we will also set up the succession plan so that we know what will happen. Like in my situation with my husband, we have equal percentages going to our children, and then the remaining percentage, if we got hit by a bus tomorrow, whatever funds are in that donor advised fund or the giving fund, plus the overall, if we said, let's say 10% of the estate, then those funds would go into that.
And be added into it. Okay.
That's right. And then they can go ahead and grant out, or they could transfer it over and do impact investments.
If a woman is in control of her own money and wanted to find opportunities that you've been describing, where should she go?
Well, again, the NCF website, ncfgiving.com, is one place you can start. You can put in your zip code, your city, where you're located to find the place nearest to you where individuals work for NCF. You've got Women Doing Well, which is you can go online, and that's womendoingwell.org. That will help you to figure out your 2-word purpose statement, your passions, and your plan for generosity. And that's like a 12-week program. So if there isn't one locally, you can do that online. And Impact Foundation, you can also find us impactfoundation.org and get involved that way. But I would start with, first of all, making sure that you do have a trustworthy financial advisor also who understands charitable giving.
Yes, I would agree strongly. So Kim, I would love to hear, because you work with so many women and so many different companies, what are advice that you would like to tell a woman who's thinking about doing this kind of impact investing? It's okay to touch on emotions here, her confidence level. I'd just love to hear from you.
Sure. Well, I would encourage every woman to just take the next step. That might look different for you than it does for her, than it does for this person over here. But don't be stagnant. Like, we're all designed to move and to keep going on the journey, and be curious, be a learner, and be open to meeting new people, joining new things. And sometimes I think the older people get, the more afraid people get to learn new things and step out of their comfort zone. But everybody had to learn at some point, and you'll find a very gracious community of women that want to help you along your journey. But the more we can all become educated with financial terms, with this world of investing, private capital, charitable capital, it'll open your eyes also, I think, to the hurts of the world and how your dollars might make a difference in a really, really cool way. So I would just encourage you listening to take the next step.
Thank you so much, Kim. This was beautiful.
Oh, well, you're a beautiful host. It's been great to be here. Thank you.
Kim, if somebody was really liking what you're saying about donor advised funds, they've never done this before, what is kind of the minimum amount that they would need to have to open one? And how often can they make deposits? Can it be something that comes out of their paycheck, almost like a retirement plan? Or does it need to be individual transfers from a bank account? Love to know more about setting one up.
Great questions. So you're going to set it up, and there's no minimum, but you're going to want to put in the amount that covers what you're trying to give. So if I wanted to give away $1,000 a month, I could take it from my bank account and do an automatic transfer. I can set it up where it supports this individual over here because they work with this organization, or this goes directly to this organization. Or I can also do a one-time gift, or I could do an annual gift. So there's a lot of ways that you can set up your giving where it's almost also on autopilot. So you're not having to spend a ton of time each month or each week figuring out where the money goes.
I didn't know that even existed.
Yes. And sometimes election years, people like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can see that. Yes, well, thank you so much again, Kim.
Absolutely. No, thanks for allowing me to be on the show. I love what you're doing, and God bless.
Thank you. And this has been Graceful Investor. Thank you so much for joining us today.